Is that what you did in school? Yeah. And that's what she did in school. We are being live. No? You good?
It is 4 o'clock, Monday, April 7th. Infrastructure Committee, agenda call to order. Can I have a roll call, please? Here.
Got it. Mic's on. Thank you. Could I get a motion for approval of the agenda and the minutes? Okay, a second? Great. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
The motion carries. Okay. Oh.
Would you like to rescind that?
Yes. Would you mind making a motion to adjust the agenda to move the action items first?
Yes. I make a motion to move the action items to the top of the agenda.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, the motion carries. Sorry about that. Before we jump into that that change, a couple of things. First of all, welcome. I'm glad to be here. Welcome, Savino. It's good to see you back. This is my first time chairing, so forgive me if I make any mistakes in the procedures, but I'm sure we'll get along just fine. I'm excited about this committee. You know, I think we've got a lot of work to do. My goals is really to help staff get as much work as they can from projects they can get done as possible. That's kind of the vision. Help to give them direction, work with them to get the most things that we can get done for our city. So I think that the committee are places where we can kind of get our hands dirty, have questions, jump into stuff. It's less formal. And so we'll be doing that, but I do appreciate, thank you to Louis for helping bring up to speed for all this stuff, and it'll probably take me a meeting or two before I'm really up to speed with all the infrastructure pieces. So thanks again to everybody, and let's get some good work done this session. Today, I'm going to, regardless of how much of the agenda we get through, because we have the special council meeting, I'm going to do a hard out at 5. And if for some reason, and we can discuss it then, if we feel like that we want to create a special meeting to cover some more of this information, we can do that. But because I don't want to, because people are going to be preparing for that 5:30 meeting, I want to make sure that they have time to do that and they are not all waiting on us. And I think while we have important stuff to do, we can get done the important stuff before 5. Okay, so with that, let's go with we're at F, item number 4, awards for professional services for Carpenter Park.
Mr. Chairman, councilors, items 4 and 5 will be Abraham Chaparro from Projects and Facilities.
Ready?
Yeah, please proceed.
Council, I just want to bring to your attention, we'd like to request action for Carpenter Park and move forward with awarding construction to begin the splash pad park at Carpenter Park to Wade Constructions. This is a grant funded position. There's about a $314,000 project. The 1% of that goes to CES, which is a consolidated educational services group that we utilize in place of the RFP. At this time, if you see, if you can kind of scroll through the presentation, kind of give you an abstract of what the Carpenter Park would look like. Can we move it over? This will be the location, the general location about the splash pad was going to be at. This is kind of designed in line with the water lines, in line with the sewer lines as well. That kind of determines the location of the splash pad. We go over another one. This is kind of a rendering of what we're looking at. It's going to generate, we worked with the architectural firm to choose the specific features for the park. We're going to be utilizing roughly about 135 gallons of water per minute. It's just to keep that in perspective. That's exactly the engineering plans for it. It covers, the majority of the area was covered pretty well. Trent Moore was actually able to work with Vortec to lay that out. Pretty good, decent coverage for the park. So with the grant funded money, we are going to have a little bit of surplus left over. It's about $103,000. And with that $103,000, we want to kind of utilize it to construct, furnish, equip, and install some improvement to the existing parks. I've had the ability to drive through the park a couple of times. It's pretty dark at night. During the day, there's a lot of tables, barbecue grills that are actually non-functioning, rusted all the way through, sharp objects. So if we can make it a little bit more functional, the Parks Department actually brought forward some of the swing sets actually aged about 40 plus years, and some of the monkey bars. So we actually have some additional information available to us that we can use to revitalize the park, in addition to the splash pads we're actually going to put. I'm open to any questions at this time.
Councilor Peterson.
I had a question on this. I didn't have all that in this book, but is there going to be a bathroom there?
No, sir.
Because the other one on East Second they don't have a bathroom, right?
That's correct. I was able to tour that as well. I didn't see a bathroom there either.
So why can't we use that $103,000 to put a restroom in there?
We could look into the feasibility of that in that bar location.
Could.
Just in conversations I've had with city staff, some of those restrooms kind of attract a little bit of negativity to the area. You know, you have some nefarious activities that might congregate in around those restrooms as well. And not only that, but the maintenance aspect and the upkeep of the restrooms as well. But I'd be glad to put something together for you if you like.
Well, I think using the restroom is pretty important.
Yes, sir.
You know, especially for, like, if we have handicapped kids in the park,
Mhm.
you know, they're going to have to load up and go to Allsup's to use a bathroom, or they're going to have to go home and use the bathroom and then come back.
We could definitely look into the feasibility of it, and I can come back with some numbers for you.
Well, I'm not going to support this at this time.
I don't have any questions.
No. So I do, so as this has come forward, and we looked at this at some time ago in general services. We had a great discussion with staff, and I appreciate that you guys have taken a lot of the feedback there, and this plan looks like something that is good. Also, there was, you know, I think the momentum of, hey, let's keep this within the available dollars, which I think is good. I do concur with the issues of restrooms. I mean, that's an issue that we have to provide leadership for, and it's an open question that we need to have a debate on for all of our parks. How, when, why. You know, right now we have porta potties, which is not my favorite solution. What is an economical, what are the upsides and downsides of that? And I think there's a lot of work to be done there. I would hate to hold this project up because the money is not ours, it's state money, and we want to move forward with it to make sure that we get it and doesn't get clawed back. So I will be voting in favor of it, so. Okay, so I guess now I need a motion.
I'll make a motion to consider recommendation of award to Wade Construction Company for the Carpenter Park Splash Pad Project 19-D2949 in the amount of $314,906.74, and an additional 10% for contingency.
And a second, and I will second it. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye or yes.
Aye.
Aye. That's an affirmative.
Yes.
Okay. All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Okay, the request pass is 3-1. And I'm sorry.
Item,
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I'm just wondering, do we need to, Louis, where are we sending this? Is this going up to council?
Yes.
yes.
Okay,
Consent agenda.
okay.
So I need to amend that motion to send it, or?
Yeah, I think we need to because we had a no vote, so we should definitely vote to put it on consent.
Okay. I make a motion to send this to the consent agenda for the, is it the May 14th? May 14th City Council meeting to consider the recommendation of award to Wade Construction Company.
Second. So we're voting on the same thing, but we're just now sending it to consent. So if this fails, it will go forward, but it will not go onto the consent agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye or
Aye.
yes.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, passes 3-1. Thank you for that. Sorry about that. Okay, let's go on to the next item. Item number 5, award for professional services for Veterans Cemetery Project.
So item number 5, what we're looking to consider is awarding $42,000 to Hewitt Zollers, a design and construction company, to kind of help us do a memorial at the cemetery for the veterans. Mr. Nahar was lucky to provide us a little bit of a rendering here. There is going to be quite a bit of discussion with the veterans group as well as the city group of how they want to design it, how they want to put it forward. But we want to at least get the ball rolling with the professional services here. With the design of the McBride Cemetery, the amount would be $42,419.45. The project will be paid through the 2019 legislative appropriation 19-D2950. At this time, I'm looking to get approval to go ahead and take this to consent. Any questions?
Questions from the committee? This appropriation, questions?
No.
This 42 is just for the engineering work?
Yes.
Correct. What was the total appropriation?
$560,000.
Okay, 560. So we're getting this going, and then we'll come back with the plan and et cetera. Okay. We're not using any city money on this, correct? Okay.
Zero city money this time.
That is what we like. So if there's no other discussion, if I could get a motion, that would be great.
Make a motion to send a consent agenda for the professional design services for Hewitt Zollers Incorporated for capital appropriations project number 19-D2950. Amount of $42,419.45.
Can I get a second?
Second, sorry.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay. If no further discussion, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you.
Okay, we are now on to regular item number 6, Southeast Maine, New Mexico DOT funding sharing request.
Councilors, Mr. Chairman and councilors, we recently received April 2nd a letter from the DOT, and they've offered us a 75-25 split to do paving on Southeast Main from Poe to McGaffey. That 75 split would be, the total project would be $520,000 and change. They're putting up $389,000 and change, and they're asking for us $130,637.61. Normally, this would be an easy thing, especially with a 75-25. Engineering does understand that we have budget and economic worries right now. As you can read, if you read the report from the DOT, they're offering us a 75-25 split to take it to McGaffey. If we are unable to do that, it will stop at Hobbs, and we would now have Southeast Main between Hobbs and McGaffey with no improvements. The picture that you see on the screen was taken this morning. And you can see the city street crews. You can see all the potholes that they've been working with. If you've driven it recently, those pothole repairs don't last. But it's just been a pothole nightmare for several years, and engineering has been requesting from the DOT for some assistance. Unfortunately, it came at this time. So the 75-25, as city engineer, I would recommend that we do it and hopefully find some money. I know I'm trying to finish up Atkinson project and probably have some change there, but I think this topic has two items, Mr. Chairman. One would be sending the project for consent and review. That'd be item number one. Item number two would be having Finance Committee also look it over for the funding issues. And I stand for any questions.
Questions from the committee?
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment.
Sure, or
Mr.
comments.
Chairman, Lewis, I mean, it seems like such a good deal, but I really feel like maybe it's not something that we can make that decision here without talking or putting in front of finance. So I guess that would just be my recommendation, is to send it to that committee.
Louis, what do you feel like the time frame is on this? If we don't, how quickly do we need, what are the?
Well, the time
No, it's not.
frame is they're scheduled with their contractor to come in the latter part of May.
Okay,
And the DOT knows our process, the Roswell process. So they are giving us time to take it to infrastructure committees and to May 14th council. And they understand a decision couldn't be made till council. They understand the decision has to be a full council decision, and that's the time frame.
okay. Please.
Well, if you've driven that road here lately, it's pretty bad. There's a lot of potholes there. All the shoulders are messed up. Terrible condition. If we could get it, $130,000 is pretty cheap to, get that all fixed up.
A 75-25 split is a good split
Yeah,
under normal circumstances.
very good. Thanks.
Well, I think certainly there's a couple things to consider. One is the need is obviously there. There's no doubt in that. This would be a high priority project even if we weren't getting money. That's a main thoroughfare. A lot of people coming into Roswell that way. It's and of course our people are using it extensively as well. So I would like to put our I definitely would like us to affirm this as a worthy project. That being said, that it's possible that and that this might come out of this committee, and I might vote against it based on budget numbers in another committee or at the council. So, I guess at this time, unless there's any other comments, I will entertain a motion.
So I've not made a motion to send it to another committee before, but we operate the same way?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
So, And I would like to say, I think it is a good deal, and I think that it would be, I hope that we find the money to be able to do that. But I'll make a motion to send this request from New Mexico DOT for a 75-25 split to perform Nova Chip paving on Southeast Main from Poe to McGaffey for a total cost for the city portion, $130,637.61 to the Finance Committee.
Do I have a second? Discussion. I have a question. If, I assume that there's time, this goes to finance to get it onto the, onto the next city council meeting.
I do believe there's time. I believe Wednesday's our deadline.
Okay, because that's, typically speaking, finance ends up being the last one in the cycle. So if, because I want to make sure that if we do have the support in finance, and I think there's, well, as best I can guess right now, there's a decent chance that we might get support from finance on this, seeing as that, you know, you're in finance, that we're both on finance, that we have time to get it to council so that we can be within the time frame to respond to this. So unless there's any further questions or comments, I will take a vote. Those in favor of the action to send to, with our recommendation to finance, say aye or yes?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Opposed? Carries 4-0. Okay. Those are all the business items. So now we are going to move to
Item number 2.
item number 2, city project list presentation.
And this is the city project list presentation by Juan Fuentes. I just want to give a little, if you haven't been out to the towers recently, the one on the left is right next to the existing tower. Tower 2 pedestals on their way. And they've been moving even through the COVID. They haven't stopped. So just as a project picture, that was my presentation. And now Mr. Juan Fuentes will give his presentation.
While he's coming up, will those be painted? I'm just curious.
If you remember, council, I presented the
I vaguely remember the
scheme. It's
design.
going to have the big R in Roswell.
Mhm.
But what I can do is I can send you out the logo.
No, I remember that. But will that base color be concrete or will it be white on top of under that?
The base will be gray.
Okay, would be.
The
Okay.
pedestal will be gray, and then the top will be white with the
Sure.
green and the black lettering.
Yeah, just curious. No action needed. Mr. Fuentes.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, councilors. Let me just get my paperwork here for a bit.
And Mr. Fuentes, if you haven't heard, I'm going to hard out us at
Yes,
5.
yes,
So
I
just-
understand that, and I will make it brief. Because
Sure.
I
And if
will,
we do,
even though
but if we do need to come back, I'm saying that you can make it brief. We end up discussing things and slowing down, it's fine. If we don't have time to go through all the material, I think we're all okay with having a special
Sure.
meeting if necessary, so.
Okay. And so I just wanted to kind of give everybody a quick overview of the capital projects. You know, every month, the water, wastewater, engineering, and some of the other departments' facilities provide the committee with a project status report. So this is kind of somewhat of a similar type of report, but also kind of brings in a lot more financial information, and as well as kind of in light of the issues that we're dealing with the upcoming budget and financially, this kind of also touches on some of the things that we've been talking about with the city manager as we put the budget together. So I kind of want to start off with the PowerPoint presentation. So one of the things, just to give everybody a quick overview, I want to just kind of touch on briefly on the city manager's senior staff communications that gave everybody at least some hint of what he was looking for when working on budgetary issues and also when dealing with the current budget and current expenses. I also want to touch on the fiscal year 20 year-to-date capital projects, year-to-date encumbrances, and that's what the big spreadsheet is. That's all of the projects. I'm not going to highlight every single project. I'm just going to highlight some of the major projects in my PowerPoint. I'll be talking about the reallocation of capital project expenses. I will talk about capital projects recommended for suspension or being placed on hold in light of some of the financial strains that we are dealing with, and just talk about briefly about the timelines for the fiscal year 2021 project reviews. So the city manager issued a communication to senior staff on March 20th, and the directives were pretty much no new projects or activities should be started for the next 30 days. Projects that are 75% complete should proceed, and projects that are up to 75% should be brought up to a balance suspension similar to weather delays. That was on March 20th. And then on April 23rd, one of the things that he mentioned about budgetary measures was reallocation of expenses to other budgets. And we'll touch on those at the end of my PowerPoint. So what I want to kind of just give everybody a quick overview so they'll get familiarized with the big spreadsheet. I just want to briefly go over just the headings on the columns for all of these projects. And basically here, all you have is the item number as listed by each of the funds, the department sector, whether it's finance, and then the project title, a description, and then some notes. And some of the notes include information like fiscal year encumbrance that's currently been issued a PO, whether it's an approved project or whether it's a new request. And of course, the responsible department, how much of a completion percentage has that been done for that project, and a little bit more of detailed information on the DFA dashboard project or city PO number. And that really describes if this is a grant, then we would have a grant number on that column. And if it's been issued a PO, then there will be a PO number in that column. And of course, the actual amount that has been awarded or encumbered. In the next section, it talks about, really just gives everybody a general overview of the financial information, the approved budget, the unappropriated amount, the city share, how much is the city share, how much is the state share, other, for example, any loans, year-to-date revenue. If it's a grant project, then we should have, then this column will help us to track how much of that grant we've received back. And of course, year-to-date expenses, and then the last two rows of the column is fiscal year in 21. So that's kind of what we're projecting either could be moved over into the next fiscal year as encumbrances. If a lot of these projects are not completed, all of those expenses and percentages of completion will move on to the fiscal year 21. So that's just to give you a general highlight. Like I said, I'm not going to go through each of the individual projects. I just want to highlight some of the major projects in each of the funds. For example, in the Capital Fund 2601, and we'll be talking about reallocation. But here you have, for example, each of these projects. The softball netting project has already been completed, 100%. That was in amount of $218,000. You have the Zoo Cougar exhibit and dispatch radio project. Both one of them, the Cougars exhibit at 21% completed, the dispatch radio still at 0%, and you can see that financial information there and the PO number. So just for your information, at the heading at the very top, I wrote down page numbers, and those page numbers reconcile with the big detail ledger, the legal size report. So if you want to go to page 1, you'll find that those projects on page 1. So going on in the PowerPoint, so the next set of projects are you all just awarded today, the project for Carpenter, the splash pad. As you can see there, it is an appropriation project. And we also talked about the Veterans Park for design only. And of course, you have the master bicycle and pedestrian plan there that is 96% complete. And I believe that project will be finalized by the end of the fiscal year. So moving on, the next set of projects is in the road fund. And again, some of the major projects I wanted to highlight in this slide is the capital, the Deming Bridge, for example. That is a project that is in design only. It is at 7%. It is a grant project, and also it at an awarded amount of $103,919. That is what the PO has been issued for. Item number 13 is also another grant project, and that's for the Country Club and main traffic signals. And that project just got underway, so that's why it is at 0%. So this gives you kind of an indication of where each of those projects are. And of course, as you can see, if it's at 0% at this stage of the fiscal year, likelihood is that it's going to carry over into next fiscal year. And those that are not grant projects, as we'll talk about, then that would be the city share. So moving on to the next page, these list of projects that we're talking about here are projects related to the water department. As you can see here on item number 2 is for VFDs at our wells. That is to reduce the hammering that happens at our wells because we don't have variable frequency drives to kind of slow the water as it's pumping, and it should slow it down. That allows us to not have as much damage when you have that hammering effect on those wells. So this is a project, a fiscal year in 20 encumbrance. Again, it's only at 35% and at $554,000. This is, for example, this is a project that we're funding completely through city funds. And we do anticipate at the end of the fiscal year, this will be paid out, I believe. Then we have another project, as you can see there, more VFDs at other wells. And there is a goal to make sure that all our wells have those VFDs installed. Again, it helps to maintain the wells and eliminate some of that hammering that damages the wells. So that is $853,000. And of course, we have the water towers at the RAC. And those are, you will see there are multiple POs for that project as Louis is overseeing that project. So just kind of want to give you a high level overview of where those projects are. As you can see on the next page, we talk about some other projects in the water department. Item number 6 is related to the water towers as well. That's a separate PO, and that's for construction. That's why you see the awarded amount about at $4 million. We have about $5 million for that project, but originally we just kind of started with 4, but there's still some money that still needs to be encumbered for that project. As you can see there, at least for what we paid out on that PO, we're about 59% of that PO paid off. We just paid about, I believe, $2.3 million around that neighborhood. The next item, number 7, it's a large diameter valve replacement, and as you can see, that project is a grant project, and right now is underway to getting started. We do have our directors in the other room who can answer any specific questions on any of these projects. As you can see there, item number 8, the reason why that item is there because it was approved by City Council. And this project is for about $184,000 for backup generators. And again, I left it in there, but it could be a project that could be recommended for suspension. But because the council approved it, it remains on this list, and that can be discussed further. And then we talk about some of the projects that are in the wastewater. Wastewater projects, we have a dissolved oxygen study, and that project is about 5% complete, and it was a small study, so that's why it's only $11,000 for that PO. We do have the big project, which is a screw press project. That was part of the loan, clean water loan of $5.5 million. So that will be coming forward pretty quick, and that will be definitely encumbered and moving on to the next fiscal year. And of course, you have some smaller projects, manhole rehab and sewer line replacement. And you see some of the notes just to give you some general information of where we are with those projects. And then finally, I want to cover some of the projects that are included in our landfill operations. We have Cell 5 construction, which is item number 5. And that, again, that is a small encumbrance there. We have about $20,000. With the big ticket item in that group of projects being item number 7, which is the grappler truck for $163,000. That has been paid for completely, so we have a new truck for that. So that's just to kind of give everybody just a general overview of the major projects. Again, a lot of those projects are included in on the legal size spreadsheet that you have, and you can kind of dive into more details on the other projects that you have. So we have quite a bit of projects, but I just wanted to give you kind of just a highlight of the major projects. So moving on to, as I stated at the beginning, one of the things I wanted to talk about was the reallocation of capital project expenses. And one of the things that we're reviewing is where these projects are being paid out of. So we're looking at reallocating, for example, general fund, as we all know, kind of carries the load of a lot of the operations and personnel for for the city. And so when it comes to capital projects, even though we have budgeted in the past small amounts of capital, this year what we're looking at is transferring all capital expenses from the general fund moving to their respective funds. So for example, in this case, we have the capital project fund that historically has been used for a wide range of capital projects, as you see in the big spreadsheet. So we're looking at transferring $930,000 of general fund capital expenses to the capital project fund. And then from the capital project fund, moving a lot of road projects, because they're in the capital fund instead of the road fund, we want to start consolidating and making sure that projects that are road-related go with the road, projects that are related to the water, wastewater, go to wastewater, and so forth. That way, we have those funding sources specifically for those projects, and then the capital project fund is used for more general, for the other departments that can't generate their own resources, use those funds for all these other smaller projects. So that's why you see that shift of funding source from capital project fund, all of the road projects moving over to the road fund. Now, if there is a shortfall in the road fund, then it helps us to kind of be able to address how do we need to shore up that road fund. And to some extent, also gives us a limit of how much we can spend. As for example, you all talked about the project on Hobbs that DOT is making a request. Well, it gives us the opportunity, if the road fund can afford it, then maybe we do have the resources there. But if we don't, then that unfortunately be a project that we say, unfortunately, we can't do it right now. So that's what we're trying to establish, is having those specific funds fund their own projects. And there's a small amount that we're moving from the capital project fund to the RAC, the airport. So that's, and then moving on, what you can see here in this chart as fiscal year 20 year-to-date encumbrances, these are all the encumbrances for each of these major funds that have capital projects. As you can see there, starting with capital projects fund, we have about $2.8 million with the road. In the road fund, I included both the maintenance and repair, and as well as capital. And we're looking there about $3.3 million in roads. In the water, we're looking at 6.3. A lot of that money has to do with the tower project, the loan, and wastewater, we're looking at 5.9. A lot of that money being the screw press project. Sanitation and landfill, 1.5, and then, of course, it tapers down to 941 for the airport, and transit at 644,000. So moving on to page 15, the project distribution by fund pie chart here, just to kind of give everybody a visual illustration of how much we spend of all the millions of dollars that we have. As you can see there, how it's broken down by wastewater accounting for 26% of the total capital, with water 32% and road being 15%. As you can see, go ahead.
This is all projects across all funds.
This is all projects that are on the list, yes,
Yeah,
capital
across all
projects.
funds.
That's correct. And then, and again, just for clarification, these are projects that we have in our financial right now as being encumbered, and those that we have identified that will be encumbered or just in the pipeline. Okay. And then the capital projects fund accounts for 13% of total capital projects there in the other small. So this is just to give you an illustration of how it's distributed by fund. The sources for these projects, as you can see in page 16, we have the city, between the city grant and other, the city share for all of these capital projects, we're looking at about $9.9 million. That's our share, city resources. Grant, we have about $3.1 million, and we have other, which is the loans, at $8.5 million. So again, being five of that is whether for the loans for the towers and for the screw press. So that's just to give you that, the city does pony up quite a bit of cost of a share for some of our capital.
And just for clarification, this is, what we're looking at, these numbers are based on currently encumbered projects.
That is correct. That is on your, again, going back to the
Okay.
list that you have before you, the legal size sheets. So with this information, again, as we are working on our fiscal year 21 budget, there are certain projects that we have identified that we can at least put on hold at this time until things kind of settle down, give us an opportunity to reassess the financially we can move forward. With these reallocations, we don't know, where things are going to land. So one of the projects that we're recommending is the other dispatch project, which is another $420,000. This would be a city share project. Again, this is a critically needed project, but right now, at this time, it's something that, we need to reassess, after we've gone through the exercise of preparing the budget. We have another project that was brought to our attention, was discussed in detail at the General Services Committee, and that was, for example, the request of trying to fix the roof at the library. And I just put it in this list because it is a project that's going to come back to the General Services for further discussion. But I wanted to, put it on the list because that's another item that competes for the same capital money, and that is about $169,000 there. We also have, for example, the discussion that you all had in regards to the Nova chip with the DOT, and that was discussed today, and that will be going forward to the Finance Committee, and so that's on the list as well. We have some projects in the Water Department. We have and again, more VFDs for wells, Kerr wells 1 through 4. We have water line replacement, and we both in AC water lines on Atkinson and Edgewood. And you see those projects total $1.6 million. And those are all city share money. And then you have some small wastewater projects, $395,000 that are being recommended for suspension, just being placed on hold. So that's just to kind of give everybody a general overview of where we are with some of these capital projects. So where we go from here, we're still working through the budget process. But in regards to capital projects, as you can see in the last page, what we did last year was the committees reviewed all of the master project list. They separated certain departments among different committees, and then everybody reviewed those projects, prioritized them, forward them to the city council for being included in the ICIP list, and then we developed that list, which turned into the legislative top 5. And then, of course, that's what we use to seek legislative funding. As you can see here, in that, one of the things I recommended was to give the similar presentation to all the committees so that they know where we are with all of these projects. And that can be done, through the month of May. Which kind of coincides with some of our financial discussions. And then the fiscal year 21 master project list review can be done in the month of June, with the final budget and project allocations, if there is any money left, could be done in July. We will be approving a preliminary budget, but we'll also be approving a final budget in July. And then, of course, the ICIP being reviewed and discussed in August, because the deadline is September 18th, so that gives us a good window to discuss that. And so with that, Mr. Chair and councilors, I will stand for any questions, or the department directors.
Questions?
No.
So I have a couple of questions, not about specific projects just quite yet. What is and I appreciate the work that's gone into this, and certainly, this is part of a process that we've been having to kind of get this list in a place where we can better communicate with staff about it. These are recommendations. What is the plan right now for putting these final decisions through council? Are we going to just do it with the budget process? Are we going to have a chance where is staff going to come to us and ask us, individual committees, to approve different parts of this or make recommendations on different parts of this?
Well,
How are you going to what decisions are you going to be asking us to make?
Well, at this time, right now, this is only for information. I know the city manager is working on putting together a budget for the new fiscal year. But
Sure.
of course, that also deals with some of the current projects that we have now ongoing that impact our budget resources for next fiscal year. So some of those requests and decisions may be forthcoming as the manager's kind of putting everything together. So right now, I don't have any specific answers which meeting is it going to go to. We're just kind of providing and taking all of this information and just presenting it as a shot across the bow that we may be coming back for requests on certain pieces of these projects to either to be placed on hold, because some of these may require council action, for example, the reallocation of funding sources. So that, so at this time, we're kind of just putting all of the information together, and then as the budget is being worked on, then we might start taking different steps on the certain pieces, either to committees or to full council. But that will be coordinated with the city manager.
So, I mean, I would assume two kinds of council action. If I assume that for any project that's going to be suspended, that will be, whether it's included in the budget or not, that will be part of the council action, correct? 'Cause if we allocated money towards something,
Right.
we technically have to unallocate it.
Correct.
And so any of these recommended projects, we'll have to unallocate at some point. And I guess as soon as staff leadership has an idea about what that process is going to be, I think it would be helpful for us to know, because the information is great and it's nice, but again, we also need to know, okay, how would staff like us to use this information? We always would just prefer to follow your procedures than make up our own.
Right.
So
Understand.
as soon as you guys can give us some guidance on saying, okay, we need you to look at these 23 projects, and this is our recommendation, this is what the budget number we think we need to get to. Are you okay with these cuts or not? And I'd love to know what the process that staff leadership is going to be bringing to council, so that we can best prepare how we're going to deal with it from a council side, as opposed to, what we don't want is confusion, is like, if there's a counselor on this committee that wants to say, I want to keep this, or I want this to go away, I want them to have that opportunity to do that. And I just want to know when is the best time, any time's appropriate, but when is the best time for staff for us to provide that input in the system that you guys are putting together? Do I make my point?
Yes, you do. And again, to your point, that's why one of the reasons, as you noticed, I pointed out that project that was approved by council because of that same reason. I mean, some of these projects that have already gone through the queue and gone through council approval, it's not, we can't just decide, okay, we're going to ignore it. Because it has been blessed by the council, we need to kind of revisit it. But at this time, I don't know if it's going to be that project, or if it's going to be other projects, or because we're still
Sure.
working through the preliminary stages of putting a budget together.
Sure,
But yes, those
obviously-
projects will be forthcoming to the council.
And obviously, the magic question is, how much money are we going to get? And that's the hard one, the starter question. And the answer is who knows. One other comment, as we go through this whole budgeting process, I know that we have all our different funds, wastewater, water. We split sanitation and the dump. Sorry,
The
that's the
landfill.
right word to use.
The landfill.
Landfill. Thank you. We split those apart. And so even when you look at a big graph like this, that page 16, city share is a good information, but city share is going to be some from revenue from fees versus some that's tax revenue. And I think it would be useful for this graph going forward to differentiate how much of this is fees versus tax revenue, if that's even possible. That would be ideal. Because to me, spending fees on certain things is a lot more palatable than, because the users are paying directly versus spending tax money. We have to have another layer of scrutiny to that effect. But I do appreciate the information in the report. It's very informative, and I love I'm a spreadsheet junkie. I love all the columns. So I'm trying to get used to this, the upside down front.
Trying to
I
control
kill
it on
I'm a
paper.
tree killer, so I know this is going out to the internet, but I don't think is anybody watching right now? No? Probably, okay, well, maybe I just ended my career, but I don't care about the trees as much as that, but we'll try to get used to this and see if we can get used to this front and back stuff that everything I get from you always has, but, any other questions from any of the counselors, any other comments? Everybody's good? Okay. Then, we are at, 10 till, I guess we are on to item number 7, department reports. I'm sorry, item number 3, thank you. Item number 3, infrastructure meeting dates. Mr. Nahar.
Mr. Chairman, councilors, again, I'm just put this on the agenda. In November, infrastructure at the time voted for 2020 dates. Chairman Roebuck is honoring those dates. Just want to refresh your memory again with this item, and that's where we're at. Next month will be a little bit earlier, May 18th, due to Memorial Holiday, but there's the dates for the remainder of 2020, and of course the deadlines for staff and submittals. And that's all, Mr. Chairman.
Good, good. Counselors, any problems with any of those dates? We certainly want to be sure that we are flexible, but I know this was the normal meeting time, and some of you are already on this committee, so I didn't see a need to swap it. So unless there's any objections, we'll move forward with these dates. We don't have to take action on this right now. It's not an action item, but, okay, great. Thank you for bringing that, and put those on your calendars.
Now we're on item number 7.
Okay, thank you. Item number 7 is going to be reports.
And the picture I have for you, just to have a picture, I like to have pictures for each item. You see the crusher and alley crews that were working earlier this month and getting ready for all the aircrafts that were parking there at the air center. So they were called in to help the airport to do that. Department reports are there. If you have any questions, department heads are in the side room. Other than that, the next item would be public comments.
Great. Any questions on the department reports? I have a lot, but none of them are pressing, so I'm going to hold mine.
Understood.
But I did read them. So, and we do appreciate the departments putting these reports out for us. I know it does take work, and I do want them the people who put those reports to know that they are being read.
Yes, sir.
And we appreciate the data. Any comments from any of the counselors on those? No?
No.
No? Okay. Do we have any public participation? I don't see anybody. I don't hear anybody, so we're good. So then, if there's no other comments from the counselors, we are adjourned. Our next meeting will be May 18th. Location to be determined. Probably
It'll
still
be right here.
It will still be here? Okay.
It'll be here, and all meetings will be live streamed. From here on out, all the committees, everything is live streamed, just
Okay.
for your information.
That is so exciting. Yeah, we are adjourned as of 4:52. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, counselors.